that you can pet and relax.
Those are the ones I'm going to pull.
Oh, I'm not kidding.
It's really pulling half.
That's right.
Three, two.
Good evening. I'm glad to welcome all my fellow board members and call the February 13th, 2018 school board meeting to order. On behalf of my colleagues, I would like to thank all of you who are in attendance with us in person or watching the meeting from another location for investing your time and energy to join us. We appreciate and applaud your commitment to partnering with us in support of our schools, our students, our staff, and our community. While the board and Brevard Public Schools staff members are fully committed to doing our best to ensure excellence in Brevard Public Schools, we know that our success depends heavily on an engaged and committed community to work alongside us and help us to continually improve. Thank you for being active participants in this process. Pam, roll call, please.
Mrs. Belford?
Present.
Mr. Craig?
Present.
Mrs. Deskovich?
Present.
Mr. Susan?
Here.
And Mr. Ziegler?
Present.
This evening, Matt Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, I'd like to offer my fellow board members and Dr. Blackburn the opportunity to recognize staff, students, or community members. Usually we start that direction. Mr. Ziegler, can we start with you tonight?
Sure, as I'm trying to get logged in here, I will start. I just wanted to give a thank you for turning that on for me. I'd like to give a shout out and a thank you to the Mel High robotics team, Team Voltage 386, who is in the process with our other robotics teams of building the robots for their first robotics challenge this year. They have a 6-week period of time where they have to get that robot built, but they invited me out last night to see what was going on, to see the robot, and also to present to this board this picture of the team. And they wanted to thank the board for the continuing support of robotics over all the years. So this is for the board, signed by the entire team. And while I was there, it was also brought to my attention, because my daughter was on that team many years ago. There is a mentor on that team, Juan DeVelia from Harris Corporation, who's been mentoring that team for over 20 years. So thank you to him for all those mentoring years. That's amazing. I'll give this to our chair since it's presented to the board.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Ms. Belford?
There has been an awful lot going on since our last board meeting, and I know that several of my colleagues are going to talk about some of the events that we were at together. So I will defer on some of that. Had the opportunity. This board was supportive of me joining the Leadership Florida Education cohort, class 3. And so on the 25th, I had my third session with my leadership cohort, and I will get that, all of the information out to you all as soon as I receive it from them. But we continue to have just phenomenal conversation and brainstorm on how we collectively can make education better in Florida. So just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to represent us in that group. Also, Mr. Craig and myself, during the week of the 29th, had the opportunity to be a part of our Head Start interview, and want to thank DJ and the entire team that went through that. For those of you who were, I think Mr. Ziegler might be the only one that was a part, other than Dr. Blackburn, of the previous Head Start interview. This one was, I would say, and you let me know if you disagree, Mr. Craig, but I think a much better experience all around, and probably much more beneficial for the staff. So many thanks to all of the folks that came in and participated in that process. I know we had parent representatives and numerous staff members that were a part of that, and it was a pretty time-consuming commitment, but we appreciate you taking that time so we can continue to serve those students. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to Flagler County with Melissa Katakis and David O'Brien and take a look at some of the programs that they're offering there as far as supporting increased graduation rates, some discipline programs, as well as classroom to career programs. And so I'll be sharing that information with you all as well, but wanted to thank Melissa and David for taking the time to go up there and meet with that staff. That was something actually that came up based on one of our FSBA sessions. And I shared that information out from our sessions, and staff wanted to go and find out a little bit more about the program. So appreciate them taking the time to do that. And lastly, I wanted to thank Maggie Rassel and all of the staff at Challenger 7. Dr. Blackburn and I spent our morning there this morning meeting with the principal, and then also hanging out in the faculty lounge for a little while and getting some great feedback from the faculty and staff there at Challenger on things that are going great and opportunities for us to continue to develop. So I thank them for that feedback. And I'm just going to do one more quick plug, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I think it's on Ms. Deskovich's list to talk about our day in the legislature, but I do just want to put out there, it's not on your list. Go ahead. I mean, No, I'm going to let you. The only thing I want to put out there, just because I want to make sure that we don't forget, is I want to do a huge thank you to Parish Medical Center, the Parish Foundation, for funding the bus for our students to join us as well as lunch. So just want to make sure that's on the radar, and I'll let you cover the rest of it.
Thank you, Ms. Belford. Ms. Deskovich?
Okay, there you go. Gosh, I have a long list, but I'm imagining maybe Mr. Susan or Dr. Blackburn want to cover a couple of them, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. We've done a lot of things together, it seems, as a board recently. We can start with the ABC Awards. We haven't had a meeting since the ABC Awards, and again, the Brevard Schools Foundation and Janet Kershaw have done an amazing job. For anyone that was able to attend that evening, a huge congratulations to our Teacher of the Year, our Employee of the Year, and our Volunteer of the Year. It's a fantastic event put on, again, by the Schools Foundation, but it showcases everything that our schools are about. The food is prepared by all of our culinary organizations within the high schools. The music is presented by our music students, and it's just a celebration of our district. It's a semi-formal type event, and we get dressed up and we celebrate everything great about our district. And I think it's a great program, and I'm grateful to all those that volunteered to put it on. I had a whirlwind busy day with Dr. Blackburn last Friday, I think. We visited 4 schools in one day, and that means a couple hours at each school, sitting down with staff and teachers and hearing concerns and things that we're doing well. I think it was a very productive day. We learned a lot of things about our ESE program, and your eyes get open to some of the things that are going on in the schools. So it's a great time to touch base and learn, and we're able to bring those things back. Dr. Blackburn takes very extensive notes when we go do this, and he comes back and he puts things into action to help our schools and help change some of the way we do some of the things. And so that was an amazing day, and I want to thank the teachers that took time to meet with us while we were there, and for the administrators to host us at each of their schools. Just a brief shout out, we've had 2 science fairs in the last 2 weeks for our secondary schools. We've had the mainland and the intercoastal science fair, and if you get a chance to, I think the Florida Today might publish, Caroline, does the Florida Today publish the winners? I think they do. I think you can find them online. Look at the titles of some of those projects. We have some amazingly smart children doing research that looks beyond college level to me on some of their projects. And so I know a lot of our staff and teachers volunteer their time, because I know that, like, a science research teacher at Satellite High, Mr. Scott, I've seen that man at school till midnight, early wee hours in the morning, helping students. They put a lot of their own time into helping our students succeed at this, and we are most grateful for that. The Tallahassee trip, where we met with our legislators, I'm sure that all of us kind of want to speak to that, but I was the one school board member that had the opportunity of riding the bus, leaving here at 4 in the morning with students to Tallahassee and back, and it was a great experience. Well-mannered, well-behaved children. They arrived at 4 in the morning in their pajamas, most of them with pillows, hair tied up in a knot for the girls, and they got off the bus in Tallahassee dressed professional and ready to rock it. I was very, very impressed. I don't know how they managed to do that, but they did it, and they held their own. And we had meetings we broke up into groups, and each school board member and Dr. Blackburn and I think Mr. Reed, we each had 3 student body presidents that were on our team, and we had an agenda for the day that was set to meet with legislators and to discuss their legislative ask, which was for mental health care within our schools, and to discuss some of our priorities as a district. And I thought that I was going to have to kind of manage them and help them and guide them and kick off the conversation, but every time we sat down with one of our legislators, these kids, they are top notch. They were in there ready to fight for what they think the schools deserve and need, and it was very impressive. I know I speak for all of us when we were just blown away by their abilities. And we have to give a shout out to Representative Fine, Representative Goodman, Representative Altman, and Senator Mayfield and Senator Huckel. Those are from our delegation here in Brevard, and they were great hosts to us. They even got together on the House floor and called out the names of all the students and welcomed them to the House, and they got a big standing ovation from our state representatives. And so I think it was pretty impressive. One more thing that I want to mention is the BASA night that Mr. Craig and I, do you want to, let me save that one for you?
That's fine.
Could probably suck a listening to me.
Okay.
I'll give that one to you. I think that's everything I got.
Thank you, Ms. Deskovich. Mr. Susan.
Thank you so much. So I had the unique opportunity to meet with the Department of Transportation along with all of the municipalities' police forces the other day to try to put together a plan for not only my district, but for some of the other districts in regards to school safety. So what is it that they're seeing out there, and what kind of plans are they putting forward? So the Department of Transportation took recommendations from multiple places within inside of our communities. Say, for instance, at Croton and O'Galley, they're going to put a safety program together there, and they're going to look at it, and then they're going to make recommendations to make it a school zone. They're going to take right on reds. They're going to do a bunch of different things. So that was one component of it. And then they also put together a platform where they're going to come to our schools, some of the police officers, Melbourne Police Department, and they're actually going to walk our kids out to the crosswalk and show them how to cross. Because one of the issues that we have with inside of our schools and everything else is that our kids are not educated. They think if they push that button that it says go, that they're just going to walk across. And there needs to be some kind of education piece there. And Sergeant Desormier from the Melbourne Police Department is initiating one of the beginnings of 3 projects that he wants to put together, which is called Busted. So Arby Creech has given them 10 locations, and they're going to put teams of 3 together. And anybody that runs one of our buses stops out there, they're going to get ticketed. And they are literally going through our schools inside the Melbourne area, handing out flyers saying, hey, this is bus safety, stop for our buses, and all those things. And then they're going to end up going after them with squads of 3. They think they'll give over 700 tickets in that time period. So it's a really good revenue generator for them, keeps our kids safe. The other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about the aviation hangar. I know you guys are tired of hearing about it, but it
No,
just got
never.
a roof. So
Nice.
we're almost there. The
Awesome.
sides are going up, and once those things are in, we can start putting the planes that he's been collecting over there at O'Galley, and we're gonna have a program. So it looks like May, we'll be able to all go there and see this thing that's been going on that you guys have been hearing about for so long. I do wanna say one thing. And once every Tuesday, Miss Archer, along with Shireen Lupton and Heidi Tarji, get together and talk about the innovation games. And we put together what's gonna become one of the coolest things inside of our district. And I will tell you that I have a tendency to kind of stress out people with my ideas and my pushing and everything like that.
No.
So,
No, don't say it.
so what I wanted to do was to first say thank you to Miss Archer for everything that she's been doing. On top of that, to Shireen Lupton and Heidi Tarji for all the work that they've been doing and moving this thing forward. It's a dream of mine that I've had for a while, and it's coming to fruition on March 23rd. Okay, I want to say that this board is amazing. I am so proud of you guys for everything that you do with working with the kids up in Tallahassee. That is the coolest thing in the world. Unfortunately, I had 103 fever, what was it, flu A, and I got held back. But I really wish I could have been up there, because that's never been done, where we as a board take students with us up there to lobby those issues. And that's one of the best things that we could do for them and for us. And the last piece is, I want to honor our future educators over here in the room. You guys are awesome. We have them coming from Cocoa and from Melbourne, correct? And you guys are all here now. Did Palm Bay make it? There they are in the back. Good job. And then did Titusville make it? Well, there should be. Okay. We want to take a picture with you guys if that's okay. Can you guys all come up front? We're going to go. Is that okay with you guys?
That's fine.
Come on, Miss Enval, you can get in this too. Come on. Let's go. You're in this too.
Who's the chair anyhow?
Yes, before.
Oh, did he?
Only because I told him that he needed to.
Closing comment shorter.
Promise not to pull out the other thing.
Why don't we stand up top?
You guys have that him, and then this is the number one of the school board, he's the chair. All right? But we're gonna take a picture, she's gonna try to take it, so if you guys can all kind of follow it. We'll see how you guys follow directions. So you'll fit in with all the other teachers in the district. Come on, you guys, keep it in touch, okay, tall guys in the back, we've done this before. Come on over here, we got two bigger gappers. All right, we're all in here. Ready? Come on, fill it in. Let's go, suck it up. Suck it up. Let's go. Some of you guys might need to get everybody in. Let's stand up on one of these things.
Tighten up, tighten up.
Make sure you can see her. Can we get a 1, 2, 3? We good? All right, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had to thank you for sponsoring the bill.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Thanks.
You're gonna do it?
Yep.
Okay, so on a more serious note, you guys are our future, and everything that you guys do from now until the time you guys graduate will benefit us. So if you guys can, I know I come by and speak at your organization, at your classes and stuff like that, but if you need anything, please reach out to us. Because one of the biggest pieces that we're looking at is recruitment and retention, and you guys are our future. So let us help you on top of it and get ready, because we need you. Now you guys are all first years, so in 3 years, we want to see all you guys working for Brevard Public Schools. So thank you so much, you guys, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Now, that's only half of my list. No, I'm just kidding. I'm all done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. Dr. Blackburn?
Definitely want to echo everything that was said and bring some highlights to. I want to give a shout out to one of the SGA presidents that joined us in Tallahassee last week, Wyatt Walker. I had a chance to shadow Wyatt the week before, I believe, over at Merritt Island High School, your old stomping ground, Mr. Schifrin, because Merritt Island High School won our little internal competition on the amount of dollars raised for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I actually had a chance to visit Merritt Island during the month of October, and the entire place was pink. I mean, every door, they just went all out pink crazy and raised a lot of funds. So I got a chance to hang out. Did pretty good in AP Calculus. Struggled, but did well in AP Government. But then I was made to take a test in AP Psych. And I hadn't prepared, obviously, for the test, but the teacher said, no excuses. I had to take it. And so hopefully it was graded on a curve of some sort. But shout out to Wyatt. And he found out, I think it's okay to say this because his mom posted it on Facebook, but Wyatt came back from Tallahassee on Thursday, found out on Friday he'd been accepted into the University of Florida. So congratulations to Wyatt. Had a chance to hang out, Mr. Theodore, with the grounds and maintenance crew over at, they were at Roosevelt Elementary for the day. Got a chance to demolish a portable. A lot of my stressors were released there. That was fun. And put mulch around the playground. Didn't realize how much science goes into mulch on a playground, about a foot or more deep. And also didn't realize just how much organization and strategy goes into staging before a project, who brings the equipment over, how it all gets brought down off of the trucks and then executed. And I mean, just a very sophisticated department team over there. And they were kind of fun guys to hang out with for the day as well. I probably slowed them down tremendously, but they were very accommodating. And then several of you have mentioned our trip to Tallahassee last week, where we probably brought the best mouthpieces for our effort, right, our kids. No offense to anyone in the room over the age of 18, but there's far too many adult voices in our work and not enough student voices, and so hope to make that more and more in our workings. Have to give a huge thank you to some of the unsung heroes behind the scenes who made that happen. Mr. Bill Maharis, wherever you are, Dr. Thetty, Dr. Sullivan, Mr. Reed, all working together to make that trip really special and productive, right? More than just special, very productive. And last but not least, on Friday, had an opportunity to have lunch over in Orlando with our assistant principal of the year from Anderson Elementary, right, Mrs. Candace Jones, and our principal of the year, Mr. Rick Fleming, who was also state finalist, one of 3 finalists for the entire state, Mr. Fleming. And both of them are just great examples of the phenomenal leadership that we have across our district. So congratulations to both of those individuals. You mentioned Science Fair, Florida Tech, your alma mater, Mr. Ziegler. $5 million in scholarships they're putting up for those winners. So thank you, Florida Tech. The 3rd annual START conference for families of students with disabilities will be held at Vieira High School on Saturday, February 24th, 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And last but not least, great news for the fiscal health of this district. Moody's Investors Service, a leading provider of credit ratings, research, and risk analysis, has confirmed the district's credit position as very good, and its AA2 rating is slightly above the U.S. school district's median of AA3. Some of the key factors that played a role into confirming our rating, according to Moody's report, includes, and I quote, an extensive tax base, a healthy wealth and income profile, and a strong financial position. The credit position also reflects a manageable debt burden and a moderate pension liability. So we feel good that we're pretty efficient with our resources per external outside objective review. And that's my update. Thank you, Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn. All right, I'll try and get through everything. There's a few things that I know that some people glossed over or talked about, and I'll just add to them, not gloss over. ABC Awards. First of all, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to David Brock and the Community Credit Union, once again our key sponsor for that event. And that was David's farewell, and he gave kind of his going away speech at the ABC Awards, and it was very very poignant and I think a perfect environment for it since he's been so involved in our school district for so long. It was an honor to have him there and to have Community Credit Union continue to sponsor that event and so many other things inside of our schools. BASA Winter Social, Gary, thank you again for your team and everything you do for our students. You know, it's a great time to get together and just have fun and talk and have some, you know, listen to you do the reverse raffle is always just a blast. But the key part is it raising money for scholarships and the amount of money that you've been able to give out to kids in our district via your organization is phenomenal, and I can't thank you and your entire team and your organization enough. And again, thanks for including us. Just so everybody knows, neither Ms. Deskovich nor myself won. So anything, nothing. Day in the legislature, a couple others that we got to meet with, our own representative Thad Altman, also Mr. Goodman. We met with, I personally was in my team, met with Representative Latvala, Representative Fine, the Senate President Joe Negron, and then we were able to meet with the House Speaker as well, Richard Corcoran. So a great opportunity for us and our students to get in front of the legislature. Again, thank you so much to Parrish Medical Center, George Mkhitaryan, that whole team for rising to the challenge, saying, you bet, we'll sponsor the bus, the lunches, everything so that the kids and Ms. Deskovich could get there. We did not, as she drove away and we waved, we're all like, oh, thank goodness, we are not on that bus. What's that? Oh, yeah. To that end, as we got there, we realized that the Senate already had some money in their budget via a Senate bill that had made it through committee that addressed some of the needs that the students were asking for in the mental health arena. And our own representative Renee Placencia, Coach P, agreed to be the sponsor on the House side for that. So thank you to him for stepping up to that, understanding what a big deal it is to our students. They put their collective heads together and picked this as their #1 item in the schools that they needed to fight for, and fight they did, and they were able to get Coach P on their side. So I really appreciate all that he does for our schools and the support for our students. Ms. Klein and I attended the Brevard Symphony Orchestra's 5th grade day at the Brevard Symphony. So an amazing opportunity for our 5th graders to get bused over to the King Center, hear the Brevard Symphony, and what Chris Compensori and that whole organization does to bring the awareness of not only classical but pop music, but just what an orchestra can do is really neat to watch. And every kid there was involved and engrossed, and they had a great time. So thank you very much to BSO and everybody that sponsors that event. Somebody mentioned the science fairs the last two Saturdays. We've had our science fairs, both the beach side and the mainland. I think South is this coming weekend, but the last two, Merritt Island Mall hosts those, which we thank them as a business partner for hosting them, or having them give us the floor space to have our students present. And then Merritt Island High School, Molly Vega and her team allows everybody to come to their auditorium and sponsors the awards ceremony on each of those Saturday nights. So thanks to Merritt Island High and Molly and her whole team for that. Today I was fortunate enough to be part of the Junior Achievement Business Blast-Off. Dr. Mullins and I were there as first-round judges for the teams that participate in this entrepreneurial challenge. Think of Shark Tank, where we have teams from multiple schools, a lot from business academies like at Vieira and engineering academies like at Merritt Island. Bayside, huge presence. Melbourne High was there, West Shore. I think there was a couple others as well. Our group, there's four teams or 4 judges teams that break up, and we got to hear 8 different presentations each. Amazing what these kids come up with, from a full business plan to kids that are already making money in an entrepreneurial spirit, with a marketing plan, business plan, and a succession plan on how they're going to make the business continue even if they walk away from it. There's one gentleman there that a lot of people up here know that he has been part of Junior Achievement for some time. He's been honored as one of their Entrepreneurs of the Year, Business Leaders of the Year, Larry McIntyre. In fact, he's honored this year, I'm sorry. He's retired now, but he mentors there. And much like Mr. Ziegler brought up about how our mentors are involved, he's been mentoring through Junior Achievement for, I think, 15 years. A little over that. In this one competition, he had 14 different students that he continues to mentor through this process and sits on their advisory panel and helps them, guide them through the business process and through the entrepreneurial process. So thanks to Larry and Junior Achievement and all they do. And the last thing I'll say is today we had a workshop on substitutes. And I just thought it was an amazing way for us to have a great discussion about substitutes. So I want to thank all of the staff for sitting through it, for listening, giving their input, and for the board in kind of participating in a different type of workshop where we didn't have quite a presentation, but we really just brought some ideas to the table and brainstormed. And I'm excited about the way forward because I think we're going to get some real tangible results as we move forward. So thank you all for your participation in that. And I believe that's all I have. Does anybody else have any last-minute things? Excellent. That brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
Mr. Craig and members of the board, on this evening's agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, 1 resolution, 17 consent items, 1 action item, and 1 information item. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. Item F16 on the ratification of the 2017-2018 collective bargaining agreement between the School Board of Brevard County and Brevard Federation of Teachers was added to the agenda. There were revisions to item A7 on administrative staff recommendations, item C8 on the resolution to recognize February 21st as Suicide Prevention Day, and item F15 on instructional staff recommendations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Deskovich, seconded by Mr. Susan. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Coming up.
Andy's.
Mine's not
Okay,
coming up.
we'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0.
Let me try something different.
Dr. Blackburn, can you please let us know about the administrative staff recommendations?
Thank you, Mr. Craig. There are 4 administrative staff members for the board to consider.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Belford, seconded by Mr. Susan. Any discussion? Please vote. Good again, Andy?
I'm in a different browser. Let's see if that works. Nope, that doesn't work either.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That's weird.
5 in the aye, none opposed, and motion passes 5-0.
Please join me at this time in recognizing Peter Quinlan on his reclassification transfer from the position of 10-month assistant principal at Rockledge High School to the position of 12-month assistant principal at Space Coast Junior Senior High School.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn. Very appreciative of this opportunity. I can't thank Ms. Sylvia enough and her team to give me this opportunity, and I'm so excited to go to work for her. This wouldn't happen without my wife, my boys at home. They're very understanding and understand that I have 2 families. I have my school family, and I have the family I go home to every night, and couldn't do it without them. I've had some people in my career that's really stood out for me. Rick Fleming, who's hired me as my current mentor, always has time for me. Chad Kirk, always had a word of encouragement. Ms. Rodriguez, the same, always there, encouragement. This lady right here, Ms. Kalaga, over the last 4 years, glued to her hip, one of the best teachers I've had, and just phenomenal. lifelong friend. I appreciate her. And I'm probably going to forget somebody, and it's going to kill me, but this would not happen without my current boss right here, Miss Victoria Hickey. She's just been phenomenal. Everything you would ever want in a boss and more. And I'm going to miss her tremendously, and this would not be happening without her. Thank you, Vicki. And that's about all I got. I got a call today, so I don't have to talk. So.
And next, this is a tough one for me. Who am I going to make fun of when this next person is gone? But we want to welcome and recognize Ms. Barbara Rodriguez, my favorite Georgia Bulldog. And other than that, Director of Secondary Leading and Learning for her upcoming retirement effective June 30, 2018. Thank you, Barbara, Mrs. Rodriguez. Thank you for your service to our students, our staff, and our district.
Well, thank you, Dr. Blackburn, board, and my colleagues. Since I found out very late that this was happening tonight, I wrote down so I wouldn't ramble. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to serve young people, not only in Brevard, but also in my home state of Georgia for nearly 40 years. I've been privileged to be supported by amazing educators throughout my journey in this career, in this noble profession. It would take me all night to thank the people who took a chance on me in my lifetime, so I'll keep it brief and make a blanket statement. Thank you for trusting me and my abilities. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for providing me with room to grow. Thank you for letting me lead amazing people along the way. I hope you all continue to believe in each other and continue the path we are now walking. There are so many great things happening in our schools. I can't wait to sit back on the bank of a lazy river and read about Brevard Public Schools and their soaring to first in Florida. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Dr. Blackburn, we are now ready for proclamations and resolutions.
On tonight's agenda, you will be asked to adopt the proclamation designating February 21st as Suicide Prevention Day in Brevard Public Schools. Matt Reed will read the proclamation for us. Mr. Reed.
Whereas suicide is a tragic but preventable loss that has a devastating impact on families and communities, with 3,122 lives lost in Florida in 2016. And whereas in Florida, suicide was the 11th leading cause of death and the second leading cause of death among people ages 25 to 34 in 2016. And whereas public awareness is key to preventing further loss of life, as suicide can be reduced through information, education, treatment, and resources. And whereas Florida is a leader in suicide prevention efforts and resources dedicated to reducing suicide death, and whereas the Florida Department of Children and Families is committed to working with the Florida Suicide Prevention Coordinating Council and community partners to reduce suicide through prevention and intervention, now therefore let it be resolved that the School Board of Brevard County, Florida hereby designates February 21st, 2018 as Florida Suicide Prevention Day.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Deskovich, seconded by Ms. Belford. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Nope, still not working. I need to get somebody down here to.
Well, we didn't think you would be here, so we just didn't turn it on.
Voice vote, please. All in favor of the proclamation?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Can I make one quick comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I promise I'll be brief, but I serve on the Youth Mental Health Task Force here in Brevard, along with some of our staff members. And just want to mention to you all to please mark your calendars for March 17th from 8 to 4 at Sandpoint Park in Titusville. We're doing a community carnival and an Out of the Darkness walk, just to raise awareness about suicide and start that conversation. So if you are able, it's from 8 to 4 on the 17th. The walk, I believe, is in the morning, and then they'll have the carnival throughout the day with activities at the various booths. So we would love for you all to join us and support.
Wear green, St. Patty's Day.
Thank you, Ms. Belford. Dr. Blackburn?
Thank you, Mrs. Belford, Mr. Craig, board members. You've just approved a proclamation naming February 21 as Florida Suicide Prevention Day. Given the increased awareness that we have here locally and how much we want to dedicate more and more support around this topic, I've asked Dr. Theddy, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, to briefly discuss some of the suicide prevention and awareness activities that have been going on in the district around mental health. Dr. Theddy.
Thank you, Mr. Craig, board members, Dr. Blackburn. Suicide Prevention Month, as you know, is typically in September. Florida has chosen also to designate February 21st as Suicide Prevention Day for the state of Florida. And from my perspective, we can't have too much conversation around suicide prevention. And the more we can talk about it, the more we can have it out in the open. Mrs. Belford referred to the Out of the Darkness walk. That's truly what it is. We need to invite people to speak about this, to share their concerns so we can intervene before the tragic event happens. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the things that are going on in our school district regarding suicide prevention. We've been actively working with schools in the community to increase awareness of the youth mental health issues that are facing us and the suicide prevention and awareness programs that we can offer. Throughout this year and in years past and years to continue, we've been participating in a variety of in-service opportunities, and this year specifically, our schools are working on the Act on Facts 2-hour in-service opportunity that's online. It's a web-based professional development that addresses the critical but limited responsibilities for staff and the risk and preventive factors to look for when students exhibit signs and symptoms of suicidal ideation. At this time, we have 3 schools who have completed the program requirements set forth by the state of Florida to become suicide prevention certified schools. And that includes having 100% of their instructional faculty completing the Act on Facts course, along with a faculty meeting discussion of available resources for students and how to access them. We will be honoring Madison Middle School, Longleaf Elementary School, and Sunrise Elementary School in an upcoming board meeting for completing those requirements. We'll do that actually at the next board meeting. And just as an aside, because it has been a concern of some staff members, the same statute that authorizes the suicide prevention certified schools also has a section that speaks to, it does not create any additional liability for staff taking that course as a result of taking it. And I think that's important for staff to know. In addition, as you know, you allocated funds for motivational and suicide prevention programs and speakers at our 16 high schools. And a variety of speakers, including but not limited to Mark Miro, To Write Love on Our Arms, Chris Holyfield, they've spoken to our high school students with messages of hope and resilience, which is what our students need to hear. Furthermore, we have 4 district trainers for youth mental health first aid, which is an 8-hour training program for teachers and for administrators. They have trained faculty and staff at all of the Cocoa area schools that were part of the National Institutes of Justice grant, and we're actually able to expand that to other schools, and we have a variety of offerings coming up in March for that program. Administrators and other selected personnel from additional middle and high schools were trained in this program last spring. That training covers assisting adolescents who are experiencing depression, anxiety, substance abuse, suicidal thoughts and behavior, suicide or self-injury, among other significant issues. And staff are taught a 5-step plan for how to assist students both in crisis situations and in non-crisis events. Other events in the school district include staff participation in the Youth Mental Health Task Force with Parrish Medical Center and Hannah's Heroes, where a media campaign has been launched aimed at our youth with the tagline, "Start the Conversation," as our youth are the missing piece in suicide prevention and awareness activities. In fact, a poster was developed by this committee, or this group, Mental Health Task Force, and posters and clings for restrooms and various other places around our secondary schools have been ordered and should be delivered very soon. We haven't done that for elementary yet because the poster is a secondary poster. We need to bring it down to our younger students because we do need to make awareness there too an issue. These posters contain the text number, the suicide hotline number, the 211 number, so kids have this right in front of them and they can access any kind of help that they need. In addition, Sources of Strength, which is an evidence-based suicide prevention program, is being offered at 5 North Area secondary schools, and we've developed a robust plan to bring on many more of our secondary schools throughout the next school year. Training for schools related to suicide postvention processes is also being offered through a partnership with Florida Link, which is linking individuals needing care, in mid-March, and the focus of our annual Youth Leadership Summit this past fall was suicide prevention and awareness among our youth. While this just scratches the surface of activities at schools and at the district level, it's important to note the supports provided to schools and to students dovetails with our strategic initiatives of social emotional health and learning of all students. But in mentioning students, I would be remiss if I didn't add that our students are part of the solution, and like you, I had the privilege and honor of accompanying our high school SGA presidents to Tallahassee to meet with you and with legislators to petition for a state appropriation of $100 million toward mental health access for students in our schools. And truthfully, it gives me great hope for our future to know how seriously our youth take this, how proactive our youth are, and how active they are in trying to solve the mental health crisis that we are experiencing. They're passionate about finding a workable solution, and it really gives me great comfort knowing that our future is in good hands with these students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Teddy, and thank you for taking on this this issue and subject and doing what you do and just making it happen. You're making a difference. So thanks. Any board members have any comment? Okay. Thank you. I'm going to break the script real quick and take some chair liberties. Thank you. In our consent agenda, we do have an item regarding the Brevard Federation of Teachers contract. And at this time, I would like to invite their president, Dan Bennett, up to deliver the results of their recent vote.
I'll save commentary for later during the public discussion, but I want to give you these results right now. We did conduct our vote. It was mostly last week. We did vote at every school site in the county, including this building and the Clear Lake Center and alternative sites. We had 3,187 votes were cast. That's about 65% turnout. We had 2,233 votes cast for yes. That's about 70%. We had 954 votes cast for no. That's about 30%. We did have to void 4 ballots. Those were situations where we could not determine if it was a yes or no vote. And I'm certifying that the document I gave Pam certifies that the teacher vote was a yes vote on the contract, and we'll ask you to consider that later in the agenda when you review that item for consent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for your partnership and ongoing work together. We are now at public comments. The maximum allowed time for each speaker is 3 minutes. Please be reminded that statements shall be directed to the board chair. No person may address or question board members individually. The board chair may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. If an individual does not observe reasonable decorum, the board chair may request that individual leave the meeting. Please keep in mind we often have children present and or children viewing our board meetings, and we encourage an environment appropriate for all viewing pleasure. While no action will be taken this evening by the board on items raised in public discussion, board members may assist with connecting public speakers to district staff that can assist with concerns, respond in brief to comments made by speakers that require immediate clarification, or request that a staff member respond more fully following the board meeting. These responses and requests will take place at the end of the public comment portion of the meeting. I request that you speak into the microphone, state your first and last name and subject topic. And tonight we have 4 registered speakers. The first is Tomas Montemayor, followed by Vanessa Skipper and Anthony Calucci, and finally Dan Bennett. Just to remind everybody, we do have a new, an improved timer system, so I will start the timer and it'll count down from 3 minutes, and that'll help you a little with your time. Mr. Montemayor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, board members, Dr. Blackburn. I am here tonight to share our experience with exceptional student education. We came to Brevard County approximately 4 years ago. We knew that we were coming to a district that was top-notch in the state, great reputation. In the area of exceptional student education, our experience initially had been challenging, I would call it that. As of recently, that experience has been completely turned around. We are now in a situation where we wish that we had been since the beginning. Very supportive at Longleaf Elementary. Our daughter is now being included, I think, as much as practical as it has been determined through our IEP meetings. And part of my motivation to come here tonight was really to raise awareness about what happened, which I think is a very positive event or happening that has taken place. I haven't spoken with Dr. Teddy about all the details, and I decided to come at the highest level with a purpose really to basically raise awareness and I guess point to this, what I consider to be a very positive event for us, and hoping that this is something that is happening maybe in a more widespread format across the district. But that's really what I wanted to say. I am really thankful for the opportunity to be here and share my thoughts about this, and I hope to have the opportunity later to maybe follow up on this and see if I can help in any way the efforts that the district is putting forth right now to improve the experience of students that participate in the exceptional student education program. So thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much for sharing that, your opinion and your thoughts. You hit home on a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm thrilled that you are having a more positive experience. And I know that Dr. Teddy and her team are working really, really hard to continue to make that those challenges that families face a little more manageable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Vanessa Skipper.
Good evening, Dr. Blackburn, members of the board. Vanessa Skipper, Brevard Federation of Teachers, and English teacher at Cocoa High School. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the educators who took a brave stand against injustice in education 50 years ago during the statewide teacher walkout. These educators included retired teachers from Brevard Public Schools, Cecily Kane, Fern Patton, Harold Parton, and many other teachers from this county and around the state. On Tuesday, February 20th, educators around the state will be commemorating the 1968 teacher walkout by wearing black in honor of those who showed unwavering bravery and fortitude while fighting for our students and profession, and as a show of continued solidarity as the struggle for our students, our profession, and public education intensifies. Some of the reasons for the largest teacher walkout in the nation's history include lack of funding, overcrowded schools, out-of-date textbooks, and poor facilities. Sound familiar? It should. Just recently, public education came under attack once more in House Bill 7055, yet another unconstitutional log roll of unrelated legislation. If a legislator believes so passionately in his or her piece of legislation, then that legislator should be willing to have it heard based on its own merit, not lumped together in a take it or leave it piece of garbage. In addition, the Speaker of the House, Richard Corcoran, who has his eyes set on the governor's mansion, threw what can only be described as a "if I can't play, nobody can play" temper tantrum, tied funding for public education to the passing of this bill. I'd like to thank two members of our delegation, Representative Goodson and Placencia, for standing for public education and voting against House Bill 7055. Our fight now moves to the Senate. What do you as a board plan to do to ensure that Senators Mayfield and Huckel stand with our public schools, students, and teachers? At a recent town hall meeting with Dr. Blackburn and Mr. Craig, I talked about a phrase that my grandfather said to me. He'd always ask me if my feet were burning, and that meant whether or not I was working hard enough. So I'm asking you guys, are your feet burning for the teachers, students, and schools of Brevard County? What are you doing to ensure that taxpayer money stays in public education? Please contact Senators Mayfield and Huckel and ask them to say no, absolutely not on voucher expansion. Keep money in our public schools in Brevard County. I hope you will stand with Brevard students, teachers, and future educators and say no to voucher expansion, say no to union decertification, and say no to things that hurt our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skipper. Anthony Colucci.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the Vice President of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. Although some community members want to try to paint me as a Tony Soprano sort, if I'm going to be stereotyped as a fictional character, I'm going with Luke Skywalker. And it's not because I think Dr. Blackburn's Darth Vader, but it's because as a union representative, I can sense a disturbance in the force. And I sense a disturbance in the force with our North Area elementary schools. Tonight, I'm offering our union's help in order to minimize that disturbance. Reopening South Lake is awesome. It's the culmination of years worth of work led by Ms. Belford. It's very exciting for those of us in the North Area. But in our excitement, let's not let our other schools be devastated by the unintended consequences of South Lake's reopening. Although South Lake scored an awesome principal, Oak Park lost an awesome principal. We all need to work with our administrative team at Oak Park to make sure they have all the help they need to fill the void. Jennifer Brockwell will lure some of the North Area's best teachers to South Lake. We wouldn't expect anything less of her in her position. However, this means other schools will lose effective teacher leaders. We need to be prepared for this. We need our leading and learning folks and our district mentor teachers ready to devote time and energy to fill the gap. BFT needs to be there to assure teachers that these good folks will be at their schools to help them, not to evaluate them. Of course, by the very nature of school choice, the schools around South Lake will lose many of their most motivated students who set positive examples for those around them. We need to be prepared to prevent some of these schools from experiencing abundance of discipline problems. Together, union and district must meet with the teachers and staff of all these schools and have an honest discussion in order to create a plan to deal with this reality. And let's not forget that when those motivated students leave North Area schools, so will their motivated parents. Let's face it, South Lake is going to be where the photo opportunity is next year, but it's not where the work will need to be done. Dr. Blackburn, Ms. Belford, district leadership, and BFT need to be at Oak Park, MIMS, Apollo, Imperial Estates, and Coquina throughout the year to let those parents know we value their schools, and we need to combine our resources to create a plan for family engagement. I have no doubt that South Lake's going to be a highly successful school, but we can't let our other schools decline. I look forward to hearing from you, and may the force be with you.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. Dan Bennett.
Good evening, everyone. I can't be as entertaining as that, I'm sorry. But we made it. We got our contract settled, and it's not even Valentine's Day yet. We did settle on January 18th. I give you credit in Penny Credit and Rivers Credit for calling us back to the table. We had a next step scheduled, which was a special magistrate hearing. We settled January 18th, and we were able to cancel the magistrate for January 23rd, which is good. I think the next step after that was pistols at dawn, but we did get it settled after months of good-hearted collaboration, which I say, well, we'll aim for that for next time. I want these students to hear and everyone to hear that the best work we do in our schools, the most productive work we do, the best we are for our students is when we are collaborative and working well together. Most of the work we do between the union and the district is characterized by that, collaboration and working towards common goals. Unfortunately, y'all got to see the worst of us in this round of negotiations when we got to annual contract reappointment and salary. And you all got to see the worst of us because I think we saw the worst of you. We asked you for courage. We asked you to step out. We asked you to protect our annual contract teachers, which all these folks will be, and half of our teachers already are. And we asked you to give us a competitive raise with other districts around. We got there eventually. And I guess that's really all that's what's important. But unfortunately, some of those good feelings that we've had through the years, well, some of those got stepped on a little bit now, didn't they? We can do better, but I want to make it clear. You know what our priorities are. And next year when we go back to the table, we expect to not have to go through all that again. Because as much as we like working together, we will defend our pay, we will defend our contract, and we will defend various things that we need to do. Unfortunately, we all got to see that, yes, we can get uppity and grouchy and ugly if we need to. There's a legislative session going on right now. There's a lot of people that, in the same spirit as contract negotiations, said, well, now don't get uppity. Don't get forceful. Don't get pushy. Don't get insulting. Sit back and take it. Always prioritize harmony over everything, and I want you all to realize that BFT, FEA, will not sit back and harmonize with what's going on in Tallahassee. And we urge you not to either. From the last time we met, we celebrated Dr. King's birthday, a man who was nonviolent, but boy, he knew how to speak his mind, and he knew how to lead people to speak their minds. As Tallahassee looks to divert more of our dollars, as Tallahassee looks to not increase our funding, we will not be silent. We hope you will not be silent either. We will not go along to get along. We will stand up and defend this profession. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is greatly appreciated. That moves us into the consent agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
There are 17 agenda items under this category.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn. Does any member wish to pull any items? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent items with the exception of the items that were pulled for discussion, which are none.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Belford, seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Any discussion?
No, sir.
Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. I don't believe we need a break.
No.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the action agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
We have one item, G27, on purchasing solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Belford, seconded by Mr. Susan. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. We'll move on to the information agenda, which includes items for board review and will be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Blackburn.
There is one item under the information category.
Does any member wish to discuss the item?
No, sir.
Thank you. We are now at the board member reports and discussion points. Before we have any discussion from Mr. Susan, I do have one thing to bring up. Actually, two quick things real quick. First, hopefully people are still watching, and I'm going to bring it up again next time. Last Friday, Leadership Brevard had their 440 awards, and our very own Krista Miller was honored as one of the 4 under 40 recipients out of a pool of 12 finalists. There were probably 70 initial inputs, so congratulations to Krista and all the great work she is doing in our district. Go War Eagles.
You didn't say it right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go War, what?
No one says it quite like
Dr. Blackburn can do it pretty well.
she does it a lot better.
On March 13th, the board is scheduled for a workshop on charter school reviews. As there are no applicants, that workshop is not necessary for that reason. I'd like to solicit the board if there's any desire to have any workshop on that time before we cancel the public notice for it. Be advised, we do have 2 retreats scheduled that week, one on Wednesday with the cabinet and one on Thursday with the board and superintendent. So there's more opportunity that week for discussion, but I didn't want to just cancel it without having to see if there was anybody who had any desire to have a workshop on some item that is burning a hole in their head. I don't see any response, so Pam, if you can go ahead and cancel that notice for the March 13th workshop, and then we will be back.
Can we pause on that? Give me just a day. I want to talk to, I got something to report, and I want to talk to Mark Langdorf.
Okay.
To see if there might be
Well,
something
we'll
for
hold
us
off
to
on that,
discuss.
and Mr. Ziegler can communicate directly to you, Pam, and then we can go forward. Are there any other discussion points or board member reports? Mr. Ziegler.
Yes. As some of you know who have attended the FSBA conferences, which many of us do, one of the vendors there falls into the line of something I'm passionate about, which is healthcare. NSBA RX there, it's a pharmacy benefit management program. They had, I spoke to them and they educated me. It seems every time I talk to somebody on this topic, I learn more. It's so complicated. And they requested that we provide some data to them. It's non-identifiable data, but it's claims data for prescriptions, so they can analyze what they could have done for us if we were under their program. They also explained to me that the chances that we're getting all of our pass-through rebates is highly unlikely. I'm here to report to you that not only did this report, which I'll forward to you, I got back today, show that we were not getting nearly all of our rebates, but also Mark Langdorf did some footwork himself and found out through a offer from Cigna, if we were to just renew, they would increase our rebates by over $800,000 a year. And I'm thinking, well, what about the past 4 years? So good work there by Mr. Langdorf by pushing that question to them. I believe that staff is looking towards going out on a bid for our pharmacy and separating it. I will forward to you the results of the analysis that I received from NSBA showing a increased annual rebates. We're receiving now somewhere about $2 million a year, but we'll receive about another $1 million a year, plus our savings on pharmacy of maybe another $3 million a year. So very exciting stuff. Of course, we'll let staff run and analyze the validity of all of that, but I think there's a lot of optimism in risk management that we can be doing a lot better on our health care. Of course, all of that goes to our bottom line in our insurance trust fund, and all of that also benefits our employees' pockets as well. So excellent news. I'll forward that report to you when I get back in front of my email.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Ms. Belford?
I just have a quick legislative issue I'd like to share for those who are still listening. Ms. Skipper, to speak to what you said, we were in Tallahassee last week speaking with all of our legislators on all of those issues. And Mr. Reed's done a phenomenal job of being in touch with Capital City, our firm representing us in Tallahassee, who checks in and addresses those issues when we're not there. But we will continue that. In addition to some of the things that have been brought up legislatively, I just want to make our community aware that SB 188 made it through the Senate Education Committee yesterday, and that's the transportation bill that I referenced, I think, at our last board meeting, which would drop our statutorily required transportation limit from 2 miles to 1.5 miles and would change some of our hazardous walking zone requirements. Quite frankly, those are good things for kids. The challenge is that as of yet, there is no appropriation attached to that bill. And so we are looking at tens of millions of dollars in increased costs to provide that transportation within 1.5 miles instead of 2 miles, as well as buses that have to be purchased addressing the hazardous walking zones. So it's one of those double-edged swords. We certainly want to do what's right for kids, but we don't want to have to pull those dollars. One of the biggest challenges, and we've asked for a transportation study to be done because transportation funding throughout the state is not exactly what it should be. We receive approximately 40 cents for every dollar of our cost in transportation. So if you can imagine expanding our busing area to the 1.5 miles as opposed to 2, we've already got a 60% gap in our funding, and that doesn't take into account the fact that we would have to buy additional buses. So the bill has potentially long-reaching effects on our ability to make decisions financially here in the district. And so I guess our ask would be, and Mr. Reed, you can give me a head nod if I'm on par on this, but I guess our ask would be to make sure that our legislators are aware that while we certainly support the concept, we need to ensure that funding is provided in order for us to be able to move forward with that. So if you have the opportunity to our business partners out there as they're having conversations, we would welcome them supporting that message. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Belford. Great comments. Ms. Deskovich? Mr. Susan?
Okay, I'll be quick. Do we have the wage equity survey yet, that one? It doesn't, do we have a date on that? I thought it was January, but now we're pushed back. Compensation study. Okay, all right. And then something that it came across in the last couple of days, it was brought to my attention actually by one of our charters, is that our board policy 7510 indicates the charges that we make for each one of our different groups, right? So there's a phase 1, a phase 2, a category 1, category 2, 3, and 4. Depending on who you are inside that, you get charged a different amount. Problem is that I would like to look into possibly taking the charter schools, which right now are at a category 3, paying 2 to 3 times as much as other Brevard school programs that we have out there. So meaning you would move it up to charge them less for the utilization of our facilities. Meaning that, say, Riera Charter doesn't have a gym. So if they wanted to go across the street, they have to actually pay twice as much as some of the other organizations like PTOs and everybody else that are a part of us. I wanted to have you guys think about that and then have Ms. Enval provide the pieces to us to see what your thoughts are and maybe come back at the next meeting. It's just that I think that there's some inequity there.
Ms. Deskovich?
I just want a clarification. So our board policy says that we have an actual board policy 7510 says that we charge charter schools 3 times what?
2 times for
2
gymnasiums and stuff like that, and in some instances it could get to 3.
Okay. So when you said there's 3 categories in that
4
policy, there's
actually.
4 categories. Okay, I'm just trying, I haven't read that policy recently. So there's 4 categories. So it's like internal PTOs, charter schools. What? Just a third
Charter
party.
schools are number 3.
Okay. What's number 2? Do you know?
Nonprofits, Boys and
Nonprofits.
Girls Clubs, stuff like that.
Okay. And then 5 is probably like a commercial that wants.
4 is, yeah.
And this are 4. And this is to rent out our facilities, any of our facilities. Okay. Just thank you.
And then the other piece that I had was in reference to our retirement packages. Currently, we are looking to go out to bid to bring our 403B and I think 457s in to 5 providers. We have more than 20 right now. I would like the board to think about it over the next 2 weeks, to go back and talk to your investment groups, that I would like to bring that down and send out an RFI, to send out a request for information, that if we were to reduce it to 1 and do face-to-face enrollment, if that would lower the amount of points they're charging our members and get us more resources for them, for our teachers. The argument that I had, and this goes back 5 years when I sat on the Insurance Advisory Committee, is that we have teachers with multiple investment companies, VALIC or whoever that is, right? And they they have 3 or 4 of them because we have so many companies. They don't have any resources. We haven't done a very good job of educating our members, so that's an opportunity to maybe provide more resources. The staff's recommendation is to not go out on RFI for one provider. They just want to go to try the 5, but I'd like to try to see what we can get if we fish out an RFI for the other ones. So I would look for the board to go over the next 2 weeks and just kind of ping off a couple of people, and then I'll come back with it as something to discuss for maybe a motion in 2 weeks.
Can we discuss them at our workshop?
Yes, we can. Yep. I think that's a better place to discuss at a workshop.
Okay.
And we'll add that to the agenda of the workshop in, probably in March. Or the retreat. We'll add it to the retreat. Yeah.
And then the last piece that I had is that Quest Elementary, I don't know if you guys read the attendance reports that came out, increased by 23 kids since the last report came out. They are expanding beyond belief. And we talked before about, you know, the plan of moving 6th grade into middle school and kind of taking a look at all of that. And I just wanted to put it back on our radar that I'm going to go and start trying to put together a plan, also working side by side with them to get that moving, because I'm starting to get worried about the amount of kids and everything else that's happening at Quest, to the point where they, you know, maybe taking lunch at 10 o'clock and 10:30 in the morning. So we've got to start looking at that, that's all. And that's it.
Okay. One point to your question, or your point on the fees, or your item on the fees. I know that staff is already well into a study of all of our fees, which would include the rental of our facilities. There are fees throughout the district, right?
Yeah.
That we need to have a better handle on and understand where they're at. So I would just maybe ask, instead of in a couple weeks, let staff finish their work on the overall big fee thing, because I know that has been a priority of Dr. Blackburn this year, is to nail down the fee issue. I've had some questions along the way as well, but just so we're not, you know, going in and out on just onesies and twosies, because there's a whole bunch.
That's
I
a
agree
great
with you.
idea.
I agree with you. We need to look at all of them, though.
Do you know when that's supposed to come out so that I can just appropriately plan for a follow-up?
I don't know, but we'll get afterwards. I think you could probably, we'll talk
Get
with
with
Dr.
Dr.
Blackburn afterwards.
Got it, thank you.
Dr. Blackburn, you have a report tonight? No, sir. Is there any more business to come before the board? No, sir. Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you for your time.